have the story. You obviously have picked the team already, and it's good to read who you believe are going to be in it. We've been talking about other players, and David is trying to carry the banner for various wide receivers. But
Just one.
well, I mean, various, sundry
Sorry.
players. But I'm curious. Do you believe this is an easy? We've talked about this before. It's never easy to just, hey, your dream's dead. But it's kind of, when we talked with Ryan Poles, he was saying that he believed there was about 57 guys on this roster they'd like to keep, maybe 58. They can only keep 53. Is it going to be that difficult, or is it sort of, do players end up cutting themselves in a way?
Oh, well, yeah, they they very much eventually cut themselves. But I think the challenge that they're going to face in the next 30 hours, I mean, there's not a lot of time left here, is balancing how to handle some of the players with some injuries that aren't long-term but could impact decision-making on the short term. And I'm talking about a couple of running backs, Travis Homer, Roschon Johnson. They have got injuries, and they've been out for a little while. Kyle Monangai should be back soon. That was a soft tissue injury. Ian Wheeler, I'm not sure why he wasn't suited up Friday night in Kansas City. I think he's on the outside looking in for a job on the 53. Austin Booker with a knee injury that Ben Johnson said Friday night will be a couple weeks. Eamon Ogbongbemiga, the linebacker's been kind of in and out with the shoulder. So those are just a few of the guys that the health situation, they may wait until tomorrow morning to try to get the latest imaging for some of these guys, or discussions with, how long it's going to be, because that could influence a decision whether, maybe one of the guys I just mentioned opens the year on short-term IR, which would mean, missing a minimum of 4 games. Obviously, they'd hope that none of them require that, but you do slide a guy to IR to start with, and you give yourself a little more flexibility in terms of, how many players you have to cut.
Let's zoom in on the running back position, because I think that's the most critical one in terms of the depth chart, because of what role the second running back could play. I think it's an interesting observation about Ian Wheeler, who I think a lot of people thought was further along. Kyle Monangai's injury, soft tissue, does that mean a few weeks, as Ben Johnson casual referred to Austin Booker, or is he going to be somebody that you can count on week 1? And Brad, I felt like Friday night was more of an audition between Britton Brown and Royce Freeman to see which, discarded veteran that they have claimed and now giving a chance to would be the guy that they can count on as early as September 8th.
Yeah, with Monangai, Booker's got a knee, and Monangai's got soft tissue. So Monangai's been out since the Bills crossover practice, which I think was like the 15th. I don't have the calendar in front of me. I think he's back very soon. Like, I'd be very surprised if Monangai wasn't an option to be in uniform week 1 against the Vikings. I think he's close there. After that, it's like, I don't know. And here's what they could do. That running back position, when they establish the initial 53-man roster at 3 p.m. tomorrow, could look light. Like, you could look at it and say, they don't have enough running backs. Well, there's a reason why it's called the initial 53-man roster and not the final 53-man roster, because I think that by the time we get to Thursday of this week, the roster is going to look a little bit different. There's going to be some moves made. Running back could be one of those primary positions. Is it possible at 3:05 tomorrow afternoon, the Bears have got 2 or 3 running backs on their 53. That's possible. Like it could be Swift, Monangai, and nobody else, or Swift, Monangai, and Britton Brown, who I think is probably ahead of Royce Freeman and Wheeler if they're going to keep guys that they have. So that's a position that I'm trying to keep a close eye on. And you raised a good question, Dave. There should be a lot of players available if they do want to consider adding from the outside very, very soon.
Brad, just out of curiosity, I know that David and I were talking about how reluctant general managers are to cut drafted players because it means that they, were wrong about taking a guy. And usually when you take a guy, it means you're giving them like a great vote of approval. They've done it before. They've had to get rid of some guys. I believe you had Zacch Pickens being cut. He's a former 3rd-round pick. Do you usually give a chance for higher round draft picks? And I get it. It's been a while now. This is the 3rd year for him. But are there other examples, like we've gotten questions about Kieran Amagaji? He's going to make the team. They're going to keep 4 tackles. I feel fairly certain about that. But what 5 tackles, I should say. What do you think when it comes down to keeping a pick versus does the change of coaches change that idea?
Well, I think the change in coaches affects it somewhat. I think absolutely. When you've got position coaches in there that are brand new to the player, that don't have an attachment, that haven't put in, a couple of years of work with the guy, I think that factors in. I think Amagaji makes the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, they need to get better at the business of developing young offensive linemen. I think Amagaji in the preseason games has looked all right. It has looked like, hey, there's something I want to see more of. What he needs is more development time, and the key to that development time is going to be staying healthy. So they're not going to cut bait on him. I feel like there's going to be a very difficult path to Pickens making the roster.
Yes.
That being said, Tyler Scott, who I had on my initial 53, that's going to be a challenging one for him. Is he in a position or done enough to be the 6th wide receiver? And I think they will keep 6. Or do they like Janae Walker, who had a couple big plays in the 4th quarter? Now, you need to not get too excited about what happens statistically in final preseason game or 4th quarter, 3rd quarter of preseason games. But Walker's gone out and made some really nice plays. And so I think that's a question between those two. Like Tyler Scott, who had a couple plays in the game too, was on the kickoff team at the very beginning, which that's instructive. That tells you, hey, they want to see him perhaps fill a role on special teams. But if you're going to have a conversation about former draft picks that could be in jeopardy, I would throw Scott's name in there. He's got a shot to make it. It depends on how enthused they are about Walker and whether or not they think Walker could be brought back on the practice squad. And that's, people freak out every year when a guy does something in preseason. Oh, there's no way they get him back to the 53. Well, there's probably to the practice squad, there's probably a better chance of that with a lot of these players than people actually think.
That's a good point. Good reminder. Also, Janae Walker was a standout special teamer at Texas A&M, blocked a big punt, I think, against Texas, and he comes there probably a guy that you could trust on the special teams, maybe more than Tyler Scott. That's going to be a good conversation and debate probably in those personnel meetings, Brad. But we always debate about the bottom of the roster and who's going to make the team. I love those conversations this time of year. But overall, big picture, how concerned should Bears fans be about the number 1 offense, the starting quarterback, coming out of Friday night against the Chiefs?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be too overly concerned about it, but I say that because I wasn't too fired up about what they did against, some guys that had Bills uniforms on that are going to be unemployed by tomorrow afternoon, right? You need to stay level when you're watching this stuff at preseason. And my goodness, they went out there. They had a terrific touchdown drive against the Bills. They had a second series. I think it was like 13 plays, and everybody was satisfied that they had arrived, and Caleb was indeed H1M, and Ben Johnson was the Messiah. And it's like, well, slow down, right? Just slow down a little bit. Everyone was so desperate to see them play in preseason. When they went out there and did it, nobody paid a bit of attention to who they were going against and the situation. And then they go out against the Chiefs, and they've got, Chris Jones is out there, and they got Steve Spagnuolo's horses are playing, and they didn't look very good. So I think you got to keep it somewhere in the middle. Like, they're not game planning for the Bills. They're not game planning for the Chiefs. They're going to start game planning in earnest now for the Minnesota Vikings. And I was
Who is H1M? Who did you refer to as H1M?
quarterback, whatever.
Oh, okay.
So I was impressed a little bit with DeAndre Swift in short action against the Chiefs. I think he had a total of 7 carries. He caught one ball out of the backfield. Like, that's going to be a huge part of the offense. Can they run the ball so they're balanced? If they're balanced and Ben Johnson can keep the opposing defensive coordinator off balance, that's going to make Caleb better. That's going to make the offensive line better. That's going to make the group as a whole better. So I'm not sky is falling here, but by any stretch of the imagination. But I also, wasn't attending the celebratory party for what they did against Buffalo.
I thought it was curious that you had Dominique Robinson not making the team, just because if Booker can't play early, he's got a little pass rush to him.
Yeah, that's one of those tough ones. Tano has got plenty of experience in the league, plenty of experience with Dennis Allen.
Right.
Haven't spent time in New Orleans, but there's a spot where if let's just hypothetically speaking, if Booker were to open on short-term IR, who are they opening a spot for? It could be Dominique Robinson.
That would be kind of disappointing only from the Austin Booker standpoint, but I think I understand it.
Right.
Yeah, you want to see Booker.
Yeah.
You want to see Booker healthy. Although, big picture, when the coach says couple weeks or few weeks, that's not going to be a.
He'll play this season.
Yeah, it's not a huge of an issue.
He plays well. Like, you look at it, and his 4 sacks led the entire league in preseason.
I like your projected snaps for Austin Booker this year, going up to as many as 500, Brad. I also think when you look at big picture and that defense, expectation is Jalen Johnson still on track to start week 1 because the backups behind him, Nashawn Wright had a really tough night in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like he had the double whammy where you get the pass interference mixed in with the face mask. My goodness. I think that was for 29 yards and then it was he was playing off man, and he got caught leaving his car in neutral. I think it was Thornton,
yes.
Whoever it was for the Chiefs was in the HOV lane going past him, and he was just kind of idling there. And that was not a great showing for him, for a guy who's been consistent, right? Like, we saw him with the first unit going back to May in OTAs, spent basically the entire summer running with the ones. So that was a little abnormal in comparison to what we've seen in practice for him. And then I don't think, Tyreek maybe had a ball or two completed on him. they've got plenty of teachable moments from tape out of that game for the cornerbacks that played for sure.
The Zacch Frazier thing is kind of bizarre. I mean, the coach was asked about it Friday night, and he said, "Oh, he's still out, personal reasons." I mean, is he? If he got personal issues, and I mean, God bless him. I guess you just don't count on him this year. Would this be kind of a redshirt year for him?
Well, I don't see any path to him being on the 53-man roster week one. I would. And I'm just guessing that he's going to wind up on some type of reserve list to open the season, and hopefully whatever he's got going on is something that he can work through. Eventually, you want to, and you hope that's the case. Like that's the overriding thing here, right? Is like the guy's okay. Eventually you want to say, whatever's going on here, was there any hint at any of this before you used a draft pick on him? And I don't know. Yep. I have no idea.
That's a fair question.
But it's a fair question that's separate from your wishes that the guy that everything's good for him. And we saw him on the last, I think it was Wednesday, the Bears were practicing on fields 1 and 2, and he was during the middle of practice, he was getting off a golf cart next to the weight room, and which indicated he was likely going through some type of workout on fields 3 or 4 or in the Walter Payton Center, and had gotten a ride back. But Ben was asked if he was, there was progress toward him joining practice, and he said no.
Less than a minute.
That was Friday night.
Less than a minute, Brad. Cairo Santos got an extra point blocked, and he doinked one. And we began the preseason feeling very good about his strengthened leg. How do we end the preseason feeling?
Yeah, that block was, the guy came completely off the edge, so that's not a situation where there was low trajectory or anything like that. I think that was, they're going to have to tighten that up. Yeah, he had the one miss. I mean, he's been remarkably consistent. He's above 89% on field goals in his career, which puts him tops in Bears history. And he's been clutch from 50 plus. I think he'll be fine for the regular season.